And we're live with another episode of the Rebel Health Spotlight. I'm your host, Michael. I have a special guest for you today. I'm excited in this series to be able to bring on a few of my own teachers that I've learned from over the last several years. And today we're joined by Nisarga Dobosz. Nisarga, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michael, for inviting me to the podcast. I'm very
Yeah.
honored and grateful.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be a fun conversation. I think we might introduce this audience to some new things. They know that I've kind of been off learning some new things the last few years that are a little bit different than what I'd been doing previously, but they may not know a lot about it. So, first, I'd like you to just share a little bit about yourself and uh, just really who you are and what you're doing professionally. You do such an interesting mix of modalities and practices. So I'd love to hear how you talk about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. My name is Nisarga Eryk Dobosz. I was born in Poland, and at the moment I live in Greece. And I started my journey around 98. There was a journey of bodywork and massage. I was at the time working as engineer for international American corporation in UK, and I was feeling that something is missing in my life, even though my job was very fulfilling in many other aspects, but my soul was missing something out. So I started some inner journey. I met at the time a psychotherapist who was also body worker, and I was receiving a lot of body work. My life has changed dramatically. I was feeling a lot of bliss, a lot of different sensations, a lot of emotions at the time, and it really intrigued me how quickly my body started changing. I was very stiff, had a lot of pain. I had episodes of kind of depression at the time, and that approach of body-oriented approach with psychotherapy really was mind-blowing. So I decided to go deeper into it. I decided to study. I decided to learn meditations, yoga, and body work. It was my entry, and I was at the time still one leg in the corporate world and one leg in the spiritual world, and somehow tried to combine those two words, and it was somehow not easy. And then in 2008, I decided to commit fully to my spiritual path, quit my corporate life, and move to India. And since then, traveled for first 10, 15 years, traveled around Asia, America, looking for teachers that I wanted to study. Took many courses of different sorts, starting from primal, um, Vipassana, Tantra, a lot of meditations, studied a little bit of Buddhism in Himalayas, and so it was a healing journey. It was healing journey. I never thought I would become a professional therapist of body work or breath work, and it was a beautiful journey that opened me up and taught me many different approaches to the body oriented modalities, somatic modalities. Later on, I discovered breathwork, biodynamic breathwork and tremor release, that completely shifted again my body and my understanding of trauma, my understanding of emotional fluidity. And I started combining breathwork, bodywork, and biodynamic craniosacral, and lately also compassionate inquiry, which is approach to trauma, trauma-oriented approach. So yeah, it's a beautiful mixture, but I think the core of what I'm offering is trusting body wisdom to unfold what needs to be unfolded in the space of presence and compassion, basically. So this is the core what I'm doing.
Wow. I didn't know you used to be an engineer. I think you're so far down your new path that there's very little evidence anymore. There's a lot of engineers. I also am trained in compassionate inquiry, and I've trained with Nisarga in biodynamic breathwork. That's where I met him. And in these fields, I meet a strange number of ex-engineers, and usually they still have some tendencies or some traits of an engineer. I can tell they're very like system oriented or structure oriented, or they're still in the left brain quite a bit, but they're trying to do right brain things. And I don't pick any of that up from you. I think the path through the body, instead of going to the like psychology first, I think the path through the body maybe softens that a bit more. But so you started mostly with body work and massage. You do teach myofascial energetic release, and you teach a form of Hawaiian body work, right?
Yes, I teach also Hawaiian bodywork Lobi Lomi Nui coming from Polynesia, and myofascial energetic release, which is deep body work, working on fascia and superficial deep fascia, but also include all emotions, movement, breath.
Okay, that's next. I'm going to try to come to at least one of those in Poland in 2024.
Please
So,
do. Poland or Estonia.
or Estonia. I'm curious. I've never been to Estonia, so that would be
You
fun
will love
too.
it. You will love it.
Kasha
Fantastic
from
country.
our group was just there, and she said it was beautiful. So, um, I'm curious. You mentioned you had a lot of body pain before you started, when you met the psychotherapist who was using body-based therapy, uh, and your pain is resolved quite a bit. What kind of physical conditions or diseases? Because we mentioned trauma, you mentioned compassionate inquiry is a trauma-focused approach, biodynamic breathwork and trauma release is obviously a trauma-focused approach. So obviously these modalities have a mental, emotional, spiritual component to them. But I think a lot of times people don't realize that that mental, emotional, spiritual is not separate from the physical and physical pain or physical disease or physical challenges. So I'm curious in the last, now I had to look at the year because I always forget, but when you said 98, it's been 25 years. And which is crazy. When people say 10 years ago, I think of 1998. So it's been 25 years, and I'm curious in all of your travels and your trainings and the clients you've worked with and the students that you've taught, what have you seen as far as changes in people's physical health, physical bodies, like the state of their physical body when it comes to doing this breath work or trauma focused therapies or body work? Like people might not realize the shift that can happen in their physical state. So I'm curious what you've seen happen.
Hmm. Our body stores every single experience. Our body stores memories from past experiences. Either it's developmental trauma, shock trauma, or accidents, and it stores in form of fulcrums. And those fulcrums are kind of centers where we store these feelings that we were not able to express back then during the event. And so when we live with those memories of the body, we might discover that certain parts of our body are disconnected, numb. We lose sensations in those parts. And those parts can sometimes store a lot of pain, but because we are disconnected from feeling pain or pleasure in those places, we feel nothing is happening. We feel the stiffness in those parts. We might not even be aware that there are some parts of the body we don't feel. And for everybody, it can be different. For some people, it could be area of the throat. They have difficulty to express. There's like a lump in the throat. For somebody else, it can be chest, belly, pelvis, foot, shoulder. And what I'm noticing that very often the cause of these tensions in the body is denied, unexpressed feelings that stored in the body. And I since these 25 years, I have noticed many different changes, starting from a more kind of visible, like frozen shoulder. I had a situation where somebody with a severe pain and frozen shoulder where could not lift her arm more than 90 degrees. During the opening session, without even being touched, expressed grief and sadness very deeply for a few minutes. And before even we started, she could raise completely her arm upward. She couldn't believe it. And like I was impressed also, just by connecting to this grief. And then people who are working with me over months or years that come for the trainings, and for example, their body posture improves dramatically. Let's take into consideration a person who might be a collapsed posture, shoulders collapsed, head goes forward. There's a protection around the heart, protection around the shoulders. And over time, this armoring start melting and their posture become more fluid, more flexible. They express their feelings and they become more flexible in their movement. And the movement, not only superficial movement, but also the core around the spine. There's a lot of different structures that hold the feelings in our core, fear, rage, anger, and all those feelings are trapped and then they cause tension. I mean, so many different ways I notice the changes, but also sometimes it's subtle. It's the change that can be spiritual change also, like something that somebody is living their life on automatic, reacting to environment. Let's say, oh, I'm driving and there's a traffic and I get upset and I start shouting at others, and then a few minutes later, or shouting at my closed ones, and then a few minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, why did I say that? Why did I explode like that? There was no reason for it. And then next time, driving the same situation and catching themselves, oh, instead of shouting, let me check, where is this rage? Where is it coming from? What is the cause? Because those situations are just showing us something from the past. And it can be huge, like in internal environment, this kind of shift and catching ourselves in those moments where we don't react, but we have a moment to, okay, let me take a few deep breaths and let me see what I can do with it. And maybe I can see that this person who is blocking me in front of the traffic is there because somebody else is blocking him also. It's not his fault. So why should I shout at him? Let me just see why this anger is there in the first place. What has happened in the past that my system is firing constantly with certain feelings, either it's fear, anger, rage, because those are rackets. Those are feelings of rackets that are protecting our defense mechanism, which is underneath, which could be fear, that could be grief, that could be difficult to feel. But we created this defense mechanism because it was necessary. It was survival mechanism in the past. So, it affects people in so many levels. What I see working with people, that it's a beautiful work that starting from subtle changes, spiritual, emotional, and always the physical body is following, because if we address the emotions, the physical body changes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. There was somebody in our group in Poland. This is September 2023. I was in March. I was in Poland at a training with Nisarga, and somebody in our group had I wouldn't say as severe of a frozen shoulder as you were describing, but they had a lot of trouble with the shoulder. And by Tuesday, the arm was up in the air. So it was maybe 2 sessions that they had received, and very little body work. It was mostly just breathing and moving. So it doesn't have to be touch, as you mentioned. There's other ways to move these things. And I'm curious. I think I know, because this was for me too. You got into this kind of work for yourself. Like, it was so impactful for you. that you thought, I need to learn more of this, I need to do more of this? And the same was for me. 5 years ago, I was suicidally depressed, and I had an experience that shifted this. And I thought, wow, I need to keep going. I need to do more of this, and I need to learn it, and I want to share this, and I want to do this. So it sounds like the beginning was similar, but
Mm.
now that you've been doing it as a career for a long time, I'm curious, what's your favorite part about it, or why do you do it, or why do you love it so much? What do you love about it,
Mm.
and teaching too?
Well, what I love about the work is connection, is intimacy, is feelings. In the groups that I'm teaching or individual session, there's always factor of emotions and intimacy and presence. Every single session or group structure that I'm leading, it really somehow brings me back to my center. I have to be very, very present. And being in this environment, being centered, being coming back to my heart in a compassionate presence, being with others, seeing others in their most vulnerable expressions, allowing myself also for most vulnerable expressions. It's so fulfilling that any other occupation in the world, I wouldn't change to that, because it gives certain fulfillment in my heart, in my body, and there's also a factor of changing people's life. I believe that if we choose a profession that is directly changing other people's lives so dramatically, and there's this sense of fulfillment, we will never treat it as a job. It becomes a passion. It becomes fun. It becomes something that we want to keep doing, keep learning, keep growing, because it has impact on others and it brings so much fulfillment. So those are major qualities that I love what I'm doing, and I never think of it as a job, as a work. It's just my passion, and and there's no way back. This is something that
Yeah.
I would not change for anything.
There's no going backwards. I've learned that.
No going
I'm
backward.
only
Yeah.
about 5 years into shifting and changing and doing all this new work, and there's only forward steps. Like you may pause for a little bit, but there's no going backwards. And my experience in Poland, and I've been to a couple other retreat style trainings like you're describing, and the intimacy and the connection and the vulnerability and like the aliveness that comes from these experiences. I had the idea in my head when I went to Poland that I wanted to host retreats here in Italy. And after leaving, I immediately started working with someone here to plan them and set them up. And we're going to be hosting our first retreats in May and June in 2024, because I also want to experience that same and facilitate it, like give that gift to people who maybe don't have it in their everyday life, and like what that experience of that circle and that connection and that aliveness can be. So it was really an inspiration to make that start happening. And so can people, where you teach a lot of things, you also work with clients to an extent. Where can people find you? Where are the best places to go for people to find you and your work and your trainings? Uh, which which organizations or what website or social media? We'll share links down below, but uh, where would be the best place for people to go?
Yeah, before I reply to this, I'm very happy that you are offering the trainings next years. I think you have a great knowledge and understanding, and your journey of last 5 years, what I've seen you in the group, and is a beautiful. So I think you will. It's a beautiful gift you can offer to others.
Thank
So I'm
thank
I'm
you.
happy you're stepping up. And by
Thank
teaching,
you.
you're learning so much. So that's fantastic. You will make a quantum leap. It's the best way to learn. Where you can find me, Maybe Facebook and Instagram. Nisarga Dobosz is my profile. I also have two schools that I founded. One is in Poland called Integral Body Institute. Is the platform that organize and facilitate different modalities by dynamic breathwork, trauma release, myofascial energetic release. And I also teach in Estonia and Finland, and the school for Finland and Estonia is called Body Awareness Institute, also present on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, we will have all those links down below. We do have our people in our community in Europe, so it's easier trip for them to come to some of these places to experience some of these things. You also work virtually. If people contact you, it's possible to work virtually. I did a wonderful session with Nisarga last week, and for those in the States and in North America, it's worth the trip over here to experience some of these things. And biodynamic breathwork is also taught in Mexico, Bali, and they recently did a workshop in Canada with different teachers, but same modality.
And Australia, there will be also, now
Oh,
we are launching again in Australia. I will be teaching in January. It's on the calendar. So if you go to
okay.
biodynamicbreath.com, you click on calendar, you will see all locations, including Australia. So if you are around that area, then come join me in Australia.
And he's a DJ for ecstatic dance on the side, which is a kind of an inside joke, but he's going to get me to go to an ecstatic dance event at some point.
Yeah, I loved it.
And lastly, I'm curious if you can share something, a practice or two. It can be something really simple that people that are listening to this or watching could try or start to do or implement in their life. Either a practice or anything that you want to share that you think could be good for somebody to start or become more mindful of.
You know, I love simplicity. I think simplicity is the key. One of the most simplest practices I do on daily basis is simple Vipassana meditation. So just meditation where you can sit, observe yourself, bring awareness to the felt sense of the body. So basically, it's quite simple, where you can find a quiet place and breathe gently through the nose and observe your breath in and out, longer breath in and out, and check in, scan your body and check in what's present in this moment, emotionally, physically. Don't attach to any thoughts, just let them pass through, And we get attached to those thoughts, to those emotions, then it becomes sometimes too personal. We get lost in those thoughts. So it really helps to clear our mind and be present. If you want something more vigorous, more something that is releasing something from fascia, I recommend shaking. It's a beautiful way to shake for 10, 15 minutes. You can put some music of your likes. I like shaking with the didgeridoo or something that has a little bit of African drumming. It gives this kind of sense of grounding. And be loose, and pay attention to the parts of the body that are stiff and let them go, let them go, let them go, and let them go again. And sometimes we hold tension in the parts that we're not even aware. Sometimes it's our face, maybe our eyes, sometimes it's pelvis, or we hold a lot of tension in our belly, in our diaphragm. So just keep scanning, keep shaking, and bring liquid in your body. We are 70% of water, this fluid matrix that is connective tissue in our body, this wrapping, fascial wrapping that holds everything together. But the important part of this liquid matrix is that it's also suspended in our nervous system. So when we gently shake, we also bring our nervous system to parasympathetic state, where we can feel more safe, more secure, more at ease instead of relaxation, where we can find that peace in our body. And from that space, we can relate in a very mindful and loving way with environment, with our colleagues, friends, family, and it's very, very beautiful. So these two practices are quite simple. I like doing also myofascial unwinding, but this is more complex. This requires a little bit of more introduction and for this, I would suggest that you find me and the session or come to our trainings, because you need to practice a few times. It's a little bit more complex way, but in essence, in myofascial unwinding, you find this way of connection in the body, and you find this undulating movement of your spine, and you trust your body wisdom and you follow the movement. You don't do the movement, but you follow the movement. The body has its own wisdom. And when you just close your eyes and you allow this movement to come from the core out in a slow way, not mechanical, but in a slow way, there's something beautiful happening with the body fluidity, with the body connection. And this is something that I really love doing. It just melts all my tension and brings me back to this energetical flow where I feel joy and happiness in my body.
Perfect. So you have a mindfulness Vipassana meditation, scanning the body, being present with what's there, let the thoughts come. That's a big misconception with meditation that I held for a long time, was that you're supposed to shut off your brain. And this is impossible. So then you'll go crazy and you'll think you're terrible at meditation. But let the thoughts come, let them go, and just be paying attention to the body and how it feels and your breath. And then you mentioned shaking, and that can be with different types of music. You like drums, anything with a bass to it, a grounding kind of sound. And then the unwinding movement, which I was very resistant to when I started BBTRS training. I would sit there and I'm like, nothing happens. My body doesn't do anything. And that lasted until I went to Poland. And after a couple sessions in Poland, it would do it for the whole session. And it was making up for lost time, I think. But everything moved so much more fluidly. And not only did my body feel more loose and relaxed, but my overall state and way of being followed that. Because as we mentioned earlier, these things are not separate. And so thank you for those practices and for sharing and for turning your own experience into a passion, which you now teach and share with others. I've been very grateful to learn at your trainings and look forward to more. And thanks for the time and sharing all this today.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And it was great to talk together.